All right, it's my turn to step in, I think.
Yeah, and to say who you are.
Yeah.
All right, well, I'm still Tom Christensen. I have been a student of integral studies and particularly Cleric W. Graves and his work in that field for over 15 years. And that is a direct extension out of an inquiry that began when I was 19. So in one sense, I've been doing this, I'm 69, the topic is going to be aging, so you should know where I'm at on that continuum. But the question that drove me, it caught me when I was 19. It just said, what is a human? What is human nature? What is going on here? And in that inquiry, I went through Eastern psychology, Western psychology, philosophies from both sides, a master's in South Asian studies, a PhD program that I didn't finish in Western psychology, and kept looking until the integral model showed up. And boy, I've been into that for 15 years. And I feel like it's finally, I've reached the pinnacle of what I wanted to get out of it. And I think I need to give you a little summary about what that view of the world is so you can understand where we're going from here on in. We talk about worldviews or points of view, belief systems. The integral worldview is not the answer you've been searching for all your life and now you're done. When you get to integral, you really realize that, oh, my life is like living inside of a building. And I can look at the world out there through a window on this side, or I can look out at the world through a window on the other side of the building. And which one I pick doesn't make one more right than the other. One just reveals a different landscape than the other. And that's the way you should take the integral model. It is a tool, if you will, especially useful when you have a problem. My problem was, what is human nature? So it's a philosopher's problem. But if your problem is raising your children or dealing with having retired and what do you do now? If you have a problem, that's when you want to turn to this. Just learning it for learning's sake, maybe some people could do that, but I don't see the value in it. And now quickly, I'll see if I can summarize 15 years of inquiry in about 2 minutes. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay. So you're trying to understand something and you look out there and the amount of information you can get a hold of is way too much for anybody to get their head around. We can learn anything about anything almost immediately. So how are you going to narrow this down to something useful? Well, draw a line in front of yourself that's horizontal and put everything that's information about individuals on top of that line and everything that has to do with groups of people below that line. All right, now we've at least got 2 piles of information and we've simplified it a little, but now let's draw a line through vertical through the middle of that. And everything on the left side will have to do with the interior of things. So that would be like your spirituality, your psychology, your dreams, or if the collective area, we'd think that's your culture, your family of origin, those sorts of things. And then on the right side of the line, we'll put everything that has to do with exterior things that you can really see and measure. So now we've got 4 quadrants. So we've got 4 piles of information that are really well defined. So up in the upper right quadrant, we have things you can measure about individuals. So if I'm wondering who you are, I want to know how tall you are, how your eyes work. You know, is your heart healthy? Maybe I want to know your hair color because I'm a design consultant. That real physical measurable things. But then surprisingly, if I want to know you, I should go to that lower right quadrant and ask what kind of social systems, what sort of external designed collectives of humans are there that make my life what it is. My life would be certainly different if I didn't have access to education or healthcare or fire protection or police protection or the taxation systems or the political representation systems. So all that's in the lower right. Upper right is individual. Upper left is your interior, your dreams, your hopes, your memories, your skills. And lower left is your culture, your belief system that you share with other people that I have to come to you and ask you about because it's not right on the surface. Now, that's the basic integral paradigm. If you want to know what something is, you put it right in the middle of that crosshairs that we've developed, and you say, put the object of inquiry right there. And if I want an integral understanding, I'll have to still use my judgment. You can't go for a list here. You have to use your own discernment, but what information out of each of those quadrants do I need to pull forth that will give me a full rounded understanding of the object of inquiry? All right, now, if my looking at something is from a 4-year-old's point of view, I'm going to get different information showing up than if I'm a 24-year-old or a 50-year-old or an 80-year-old. How do I account for that? Take that crosshair, and now imagine there's an axis that allows you to move it forward and backward. So as you start out, let's say it's where you were born, it's just about at a 0 point of what we call cognitive complexity. But then you grow a little bit more, and you're no longer baffled by what is 10. You can even count to that number just before they go into the teens. Wow. And then later I can even to 100. So we know there's complexity continues to grow. Well, as it grows, let's push that quadrant back farther along that continuum, and everything in the matrix we've designed changes its meaning based on where it is on that axis of cognitive maturation. And that brings in the Graves model of these different levels of development. In that axis that's going backward and forward, we measure cognitive development, maturation. And that together gives us a really holistic view of what is of interest to us. Now, what might be interesting to us? Well, aging is certainly a matter for many of us. The whole baby boomer bulge in the python is coming through that experience. And that means a lot of people are going to find this a relevant topic. Well, what is it about aging we're curious about? Well, if you just ask that, you've got the infinite universe of information, and you're bowled over and at least whelmed, if not overwhelmed. So we have to simplify it again. Let's look in the upper quadrant and say, well, what is aging? What matters about aging up there? Well, is my mind going to continue to work as good as it is? Because I fear it may not. All right. So cognitive capacities might diminish, but they also might continue to increase. There is a subset of human beings whose cognitive complexity continues to grow no matter how old they get. So is that going to be us? And how do I prepare for that? Or how do I honor that? Because that's going to make me see things different than my people earlier on that continuum will see them. Well, then we look up in the upper right quadrant, aging. What has that got to do? Oh, my body's not going to be doing what I did when I was 25. All right, what is significant to me about that? And, we can begin to carry the inquiry out there. But also, let's look in the lower right quadrant. Say, well, what social systems do I have to plug into? If I don't have a healthcare system around me, it's going to be a different aging experience than if the hospital's across the street. And then let's look in the lower left. What does my culture say about an elder here? If my culture doesn't have an element of respect for age, then I'm going to have to fight for credibility. Or I might just want to step out of that culture. But at least now I know where the problem is. It's that people around me don't recognize that I'm still growing. Oh, that's a lower left quadrant problem. It's not a pervasive all 4 quadrant problem. It's located right there. Now I can narrow my focus down and do something about that issue. So that's a quick summary of how we would approach aging from an integral perspective.